Trust is a funny thing. You spend years building it, believing you've created something unbreakable. Then in one shocking moment you realize just how fragile it really was all along. I met Jake in college. We were roommates, freshman year, randomly assigned. But we clicked immediately. Same taste in music, same dark sense of humor, same drive to prove ourselves. For 4 years we were inseparable. After graduation, we even moved to the same city, got apartments in the same building. He was the brother I never had, the one person I trusted completely. Then there was Ellie. I met her at a coffee shop 2 years ago. She was reading one of my favorite books, and I couldn't help but comment on it. One conversation led to another, and soon we were dating. It wasn't love at first sight or anything dramatic like that. It was something better, a slow-building connection that felt real and lasting. Jake and Ellie got along great from the start. I was relieved. Your best friend and your girlfriend not liking each other is a nightmare scenario for anyone. The three of us hung out constantly, movie nights, weekend trips, game nights. We were a tight-knit group. I thought we were anyway. Looking back, there were signs. Little moments when I'd catch Jake looking at Ellie a beat too long, times when he'd text her directly instead of in our group chat, comments about how lucky I was that occasionally sounded more envious than supportive. But I dismissed these thoughts as paranoia. This was Jake, after all, my best friend, the guy who helped me move 5 times, who stayed up all night with me when my dad was in the hospital, who knew all my secrets. 3 months ago, Jake started acting strange. He became flaky, canceling plans last minute. When we did hang out, he seemed distracted, checking his phone constantly. I asked him about it several times, but he brushed it off, saying work was stressful. Ellie noticed it too. Maybe he's seeing someone, she suggested one night, and he's not ready to tell us about it. That made sense. Jake had been single for a while, and he had always been private about his relationships until they were serious. I decided to back off and give him space. Then came the party. It was a housewarming for another college friend who'd just moved to town. About 30 people, casual atmosphere, nothing special. Jake arrived late, which wasn't unusual these days. What was unusual was how nervous he seemed. He kept looking around the room, checking his watch, drinking more than he normally would. Ellie and I were chatting with some friends by the snack table when Jake approached us. His face was flushed, either from alcohol or nerves, probably both. "Can I talk to you guys for a second?" he asked. We followed him to a slightly quieter corner of the living room. He took a deep breath, ran his hands through his hair, and then suddenly dropped to one knee in front of Ellie. The room, which had been buzzing with conversation and music, went deadly silent. Everyone was staring. I stood there frozen, my brain refusing to process what was happening. "Ellie," Jake said, his voice shaking, "I've been in love with you since the day we met. I know this is crazy and unexpected, but I can't keep pretending. You're the one for me. Will you marry me?" He pulled out a ring box and opened it, revealing a diamond ring that must have cost him at least 2 months' salary. Time seemed to stop. I looked at Jake, this person I thought I knew better than anyone, and felt nothing but a cold emptiness spreading through my chest. Then I looked at Ellie. Her face was a mixture of shock, confusion, and something else. Guilt? And that's when I smirked. Not a full-blown laugh, just a small, knowing smile that probably looked out of place given the circumstances. But I couldn't help it, because in that moment, watching my supposed best friend propose to my girlfriend, I realized I knew something he didn't. Ellie had been acting strange too these past few weeks. Secretive phone calls, unexplained absences, a general distraction that mirrored Jake's. I had confronted her about it just 3 days earlier, fearing the worst, that she was cheating on me. She broke down crying and confessed everything. Yes, Jake had been pursuing her for months, small gestures at first, compliments when I wasn't around, texts that crossed the line from friendly to flirtatious, accidental touches that lingered too long. She had rejected him repeatedly, told him she loved me, but he wouldn't stop. "Why didn't you tell me?" I had asked, hurt but relieved she hadn't reciprocated. "I didn't want to ruin your friendship," she said. "I thought I could handle it, that he'd eventually stop and things could go back to normal." But 2 weeks ago, Jake had cornered her when she was alone at his apartment waiting for me to arrive. He had tried to kiss her, told her they belonged together, that I didn't deserve her. She had pushed him away and left immediately. That's when she decided I needed to know. She showed me the texts, dozens of them, becoming increasingly desperate and manipulative. "Ryan doesn't need to know," one read. "We could be so good together if you'd just give us a chance." I had been furious, ready to confront Jake immediately, but Ellie begged me to let her handle it. She wanted to let him down firmly but kindly, preserve what might be left of our friendship. I reluctantly agreed, trusting her judgment. And now here he was, proposing to her in front of me and a room full of witnesses. It was so wildly inappropriate, so completely delusional, that all I could do was smirk at the absolute absurdity of it all. Ellie recovered from her shock faster than I did. "Jake, no," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "You know I'm with Ryan. We've talked about this. I told you to stop." Jake's face hardened. "Don't pretend you don't feel it too," he said. "All those conversations we've had, all those moments, they meant something." "They meant friendship to me," she replied, "nothing more. I love Ryan." Jake stood up slowly, the ring box still open in his hand. His eyes found mine, saw my smirk, and narrowed in anger. "You think this is funny?" he demanded. "You've never appreciated her, never deserved her." I could have said many things in that moment, could have revealed that I knew everything, that Ellie had told me about his persistent harassment, could have punched him, which is what a part of me wanted to do. Instead, I just shook my head. "You need help, Jake," I said quietly. The party host, sensing an imminent explosion, quickly turned up the music and started ushering people toward the kitchen for more drinks. Jake stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Ellie and I left shortly after, the night thoroughly ruined. I thought that would be the end of it. Jake had shown his true colors to everyone present. Surely he'd be too embarrassed to face any of us again. But I underestimated his ability to twist reality. The next day, mutual friends started texting me. Apparently, Jake was telling everyone a different version of events. In his story, Ellie and he had been secretly seeing each other for months. She had been planning to break up with me but couldn't find the right moment. The proposal was meant to force the issue, to help her be honest about her true feelings. And my smirk? According to Jake, that was me cruelly mocking him in his moment of vulnerability, showing callous disregard for both his feelings and Ellie's. Some people actually believed him. Friends I'd known for years were suddenly looking at me sideways, questioning my character. Even more bizarrely, Jake's parents, who had always treated me like a second son, called to express their disappointment in me for humiliating their son. Ellie was furious when she heard what Jake was saying about her. She wanted to set the record straight immediately, show everyone the texts as proof. But I hesitated. Did we really want to drag everyone into our drama? Air all this dirty laundry publicly? Besides, the people who truly knew us would see through Jake's lies eventually. So we decided to take the high road. We blocked Jake on everything, told our closest friends the truth when asked directly, but otherwise tried to move on with our lives. We thought the drama would die down on its own. We were wrong. Last week, at a mutual friend's birthday dinner, Jake showed up uninvited. He acted as if nothing had happened, greeting everyone warmly, except for Ellie and me, whom he pointedly ignored. Throughout the night, I caught him whispering to people, glancing in our direction. By the end of the evening, the tension was unbearable. On our way out, Jake cornered me by the coat rack. "You think you've won, but she'll get bored with you eventually," he slurred, clearly drunk. And that smirk, everyone saw it. Everyone knows what kind of person you really are. I walked away without responding, but his words bothered me more than I wanted to admit. Not because I believed Ellie would leave me, but because I was starting to wonder if I had handled the proposal situation properly. Should I have confronted him immediately with what I knew? Should I have been more outraged, less amused? Did my smirk make me the bad guy in this scenario? When I got home, I found several missed calls from unknown numbers. Jake had apparently shared my contact information in a group chat, suggesting people reach out to check on my mental state because I'd been acting unstable. 3 separate people had texted asking if I was okay, if I needed to talk, as if I were the one who had propositioned my best friend's partner. That's when my patience finally snapped. I posted the entire story on social media, including screenshots of Jake's inappropriate text to Ellie. I didn't want to stoop to his level, but I couldn't see another way to clear our names. The response was overwhelming. Most people expressed shock and support, but a surprising number suggested I shared some blame. "You should have confronted him sooner," they said. "That smirk was disrespectful, regardless of the circumstances." Some even suggested Ellie must have done something to encourage Jake's feelings, despite all evidence to the contrary. Jake himself responded by calling me vindictive and petty for publicly humiliating him when he was already heartbroken. He claimed the texts were taken out of context, that Ellie had led him on, that a real friend would have handled things privately. Now our entire social circle is divided. Some friends have cut ties with Jake completely. Others think Ellie and I overreacted by going public. A few have suggested we all sit down and talk it out, as if this were a simple misunderstanding rather than a fundamental betrayal of trust. Through it all, that moment at the party keeps replaying in my mind. Jake on one knee, the shocked silence of the room, and my involuntary smirk. I still don't think I did anything wrong given the circumstances, but with so many people suggesting otherwise, I can't help but second-guess myself. So here I am, asking strangers on the internet, am I the a-hole?